Weeks passed after the accident on the moon VRL-9. The Interstellar Academy slowly returned to normal. Students resumed their studies, the damaged dome was repaired, and new safety systems were installed. But for Ethan Cole, life was no longer the same. Everywhere he went, people recognized him. Some called him the human who saved a princess. Others simply looked at him with quiet respect. Ethan never wanted fame. He only wanted to finish his studies and learn more about the galaxy. Still, deep inside, he felt proud that he had done something good. Every time he saw Princess Liara walking through the academy halls, he felt glad that she was safe and alive. They spoke often now, not as a hero and a princess, but as two friends who had shared a dangerous moment. One evening, while Ethan was studying alone in the library, his wrist communicator beeped. The academy headmaster's voice came through, calm and formal. "Ethan Cole, please report to the administration wing. You have received a royal message." Ethan blinked in surprise. A royal message? He hurried across the corridors until he reached the main hall, where a tall holographic projector stood waiting. When he stepped inside, a golden light filled the room, forming the image of the Emperor of the Zaloran Empire himself. "Ethan Cole of Earth," said the Emperor in a deep, noble voice. "You are summoned to Veshrel Prime, homeworld of the Zaloran Empire. The royal family wishes to honor you in person. A ship has been prepared. It will arrive tomorrow." Ethan bowed his head. "I'm honored, Your Majesty." The hologram faded. The headmaster looked at Ethan with a proud smile. "You are making history, my boy. No human has ever been invited to the royal homeworld before." The next day, a sleek white starship arrived at the Academy's docking bay. Its design was elegant, almost like it was carved from light itself. When Ethan stepped aboard, the Zaloran crew greeted him politely. The ship moved smoothly through space, leaving the Academy behind. As they traveled, Ethan looked out the window and saw the stars rushing past. He wondered what the royal world would be like. He had heard stories, cities that floated in the air, rivers of shining light, and towers that reached into the clouds. He felt nervous but also curious. After a day's journey, the ship entered the orbit of Veshrel Prime. Ethan gasped as he saw the planet for the first time. It was covered in silver seas and bright forests that glowed faintly under the twin suns. Massive floating cities drifted above the surface like islands of glass. It was the most beautiful place he had ever seen. The ship landed on a long platform that shone like crystal. Guards in silver armor lined the walkway. As Ethan stepped out, Princess Liara appeared, dressed in a formal gown of flowing blue light. She smiled warmly. "Welcome to Veshrel Prime, Ethan Cole," she said. He smiled nervously. "This place is amazing. I didn't think anything like this could exist." Liara laughed softly. "It is my home, and now it is yours too for as long as you wish to stay." She led him through the royal palace, a vast structure made of transparent walls and living light. Creatures of many species bowed as they passed. The air itself seemed to hum with gentle energy. Finally, they reached the throne chamber. There sat the Emperor and Empress of the Zaloran Empire, surrounded by their advisors. The Emperor rose as Ethan approached. His golden eyes shone warmly. "Ethan Cole of Earth," he said. "You have done what few in the galaxy would dare. You risked your life to save my daughter. For this we owe you more than words." Ethan bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, I only did what anyone would do in my place." The Empress smiled kindly. "Many say such words, but few live by them. Your heart is strong, young human." The Emperor raised his hand and a glowing sigil appeared in the air. "By the laws of our empire, one who saves a royal life shall be offered kinship. Ethan Cole, if you accept, you shall become part of our royal family, a son of the House of Veshra. You will bear our name, our protection, and our trust." Ethan froze, stunned. He had expected a medal or perhaps an award, not this. "You mean, you want to make me part of your family?" Liara stepped forward, her eyes shining. "It is our way. You are already bound to us by courage. Now we make it official." The Emperor nodded. "This is our highest honor. We offer it freely, but it must be accepted freely as well." Ethan's heart pounded. He thought of his small home on Earth, his parents who would never believe this story, and the life he had left behind. He looked at Liara, who was smiling gently, and then at the Emperor and Empress. They were waiting with genuine warmth, not as rulers, but as people. "I accept," Ethan said finally. "I would be honored to be part of your family." The hall erupted in soft music. The Emperor placed a glowing ring on Ethan's wrist. It wrapped around his arm like liquid light before turning into a faint mark, a symbol of the royal crest. "From this day," said the Emperor, "you are Ethan Cole Veshra of House Zaloran, son of our royal line and brother to Princess Liara. May you walk among the stars as one of us." Liara's eyes sparkled. "Welcome, brother." The ceremony lasted long into the night. Alien diplomats from many worlds attended, curious to see the human who had become royal. Ethan felt overwhelmed but happy. He was given rooms in the palace with wide windows that looked out over the shining city. In the days that followed, Ethan learned about Zaloran customs. He was taught how to bow in the royal way, how to greet guests with light patterns, and how to eat their floating dishes, which hovered just above the table until you guided them with your hands. Liara helped him every step of the way, laughing whenever he made a small mistake. He found that life on Veshral Prime was peaceful but busy. Every morning, he joined Liara in attending public meetings where citizens presented their ideas and problems. Sometimes he was asked to speak about Earth, its oceans, its forests, and its people. The Zalorans listened carefully, fascinated by how humans could live on a single world and still find so many ways to create beauty. Ethan soon became popular among the younger nobles, who admired his modesty and sense of humor, but not everyone approved. Some members of the council whispered that a human did not belong among royals. They thought he was too simple, too different. One afternoon, while Ethan was studying in the royal library, a counselor named Varen approached him. His expression was cold. "Human," he said. "You have the Emperor's favor, but remember this. Family or not, you are still from a small world. Do not reach for things beyond you." Ethan looked up calmly. "I didn't ask for power. I only want to help," Varen frowned. "Then help quietly. Leave leadership to those born for it." After the counselor left, Liara entered. She had overheard part of the conversation. "Do not let his words trouble you," she said. "Varen fears what he does not understand. But my father trusts you, and so do I." Ethan smiled slightly. "I didn't come here to be a leader. I just want to do something useful." A few weeks later, Ethan got his chance. A dispute had started between a human colony and a Zaloran mining outpost on a distant moon. Each side claimed the same mineral field. The tension was rising fast, and both governments were preparing to send fleets. The Emperor called an emergency council. "This cannot become war," he said. "But neither side will listen to reason. We need someone both sides will trust." Liara looked at Ethan. "Let him go," she said. "He knows both worlds," the council murmured in surprise. The Emperor studied Ethan for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. Ethan Cole Veshra, will you represent our house as envoy?" Ethan bowed. "I will do my best." He traveled to the disputed moon aboard a small diplomatic ship. The human miners met him with suspicion at first, but when he spoke, they saw honesty in his eyes. "I'm one of you," he said, "and I'm also one of them. We don't need to fight. We just need to talk." Then he met with the Zaloran overseers and said, "The humans are not your enemies. They only fear losing their home. Let us share the land, not destroy it." He spent days mediating, drawing maps, and finding fair terms. Slowly, both sides began to listen. When the treaty was signed, people on both worlds cheered. The Emperor sent a message of pride. "You have done what warriors could not, my son. You have brought peace." Ethan returned to Veshral Prime to a hero's welcome. The people gathered in the city square to celebrate. Lights filled the air, forming the image of two hands, one human, one Zaloran, joined together. That night, the royal family held a quiet dinner. The Emperor raised his glass. "Ethan, when you first came here, you were a student. Now you are a bridge between species. You remind us all that courage and kindness can change worlds." Liara smiled across the table. "I told you, brother, you belong here." Ethan felt warmth fill his chest. "I think I belong in both places," he said softly. "Earth gave me my heart, but Veshral Prime gave me my family." The Empress touched his hand gently. "And we are proud to call you our son." Later, as the night grew quiet, Ethan stood on the palace balcony looking at the stars. The twin suns had set, leaving the sky painted in shades of violet and silver. Below him, the city shimmered like a dream. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, from a small human school to an alien empire, from a student to a royal son. He smiled to himself. He didn't need riches or titles. What mattered was the bond he had built, the friendships he had earned, and the peace he had helped create. Princess Liara joined him on the balcony. For a while they stood in silence watching the stars. The interstellar academy of Celestara floated in the skies of a quiet planet surrounded by rings of blue dust. The academy was built to teach peace and science to students from hundreds of worlds. Every species had its own way of learning, but here they tried to understand one another. In the middle of all these brilliant minds was one human named Ethan Cole. Ethan was not rich or famous. He had come from Earth through a scholarship program meant to build friendship between humans and aliens. He was 20 years old, with brown hair and thoughtful eyes. He loved studying how different civilizations lived together. Though he often felt small among so many powerful beings, he believed that courage and kindness were stronger than technology or titles. Every day, Ethan attended classes where he learned star physics, alien diplomacy, and ancient galactic history. His classmates were tall insectoids, floating energy forms, and crystal-bodied thinkers. Among them was Princess Liara Veshra, daughter of the Emperor of the Zaloran Empire. Her people had skin that glowed faintly blue, and their eyes reflected light like stars. Liara spoke softly, but her presence made others quiet down when she entered the room. She carried herself with calm confidence, yet she often looked lonely. Ethan had spoken to her only a few times. Once, when she dropped a small holographic tablet in the hallway, he picked it up and handed it to her. She had smiled kindly and thanked him in perfect English. From then on, they sometimes exchanged small greetings. Ethan never thought much of it. To him, she was just another student, though one with a heavy responsibility. One bright morning, a group of students, including Ethan and Liara, were sent on a research trip to a nearby moon called Virel 9. The mission was simple: to study the mineral patterns that glowed beneath the moon's surface. The group boarded a sleek silver transport ship and landed inside a clear dome, built to protect them from the thin atmosphere outside. Inside the dome were labs and rest pods, and beyond its walls stretched endless plains of silver rock. Ethan was excited to collect samples for his research. He walked around with a scanner, recording data, while the others chatted or floated through the air using anti-grav belts. But as the sun dipped behind the horizon, something unexpected happened. The alarm lights turned red and a loud siren echoed through the dome. The communication screens flashed warnings in every language. Meteor storm approaching. Seek shelter immediately. Everyone froze for a moment, and then chaos began. Small rocks started to hit the dome, then larger ones. The shield field flickered. The instructors shouted for everyone to get to the emergency shelters, but some students panicked and ran in different directions. Ethan looked up and saw cracks forming in the dome's top layer. The impact sounds grew louder like drums of thunder. The power lights flickered and went out. Through the cracks, sharp streaks of light pierced the air. He heard someone yell, "The princess, she's trapped." Ethan turned toward the far end of the dome and saw smoke rising. One of the walls had collapsed near the observation deck where Princess Liara had been studying. Without thinking, he ran toward the wreckage. The air smelled of burning plastic and metal. When he reached the spot, he saw the princess pinned under a fallen beam. Her two guards were struggling to lift it, but flames blocked their path. One of them shouted that they could not get through without a heat shield. Ethan scanned the area quickly. He saw a half-destroyed oxygen tank and pieces of metal scattered nearby. He took off his jacket, wrapped it around his arm, and ran straight into the fire. His heart pounded, but he forced himself forward. He found a heavy metal panel and dragged it, pushing it through the flames to block part of the heat. Using a broken pipe, he hooked the fallen beam and pulled with all his strength. His arm shook, but slowly the beam moved enough for Liara to crawl out. She coughed, her glowing skin dimming slightly from exhaustion. You are human," she whispered weakly. "Yes," Ethan said, his voice strained. "Can you walk?" She nodded faintly. The fire roared behind them. The dome's outer wall groaned, threatening to collapse. Ethan helped her up, wrapping her arm over his shoulder. The oxygen levels were dropping fast. His mask was cracked and leaking. They stumbled down a corridor filled with smoke. Emergency lights flickered red and blue. Ethan spotted a smaller escape pod chamber ahead, half buried in debris. He used his shoulder to push through and kicked open the door. Inside, the pod systems were still active, but it needed manual launch input. Liara tried to help, but her hands were shaking. Ethan pressed buttons, reading alien symbols on the screen. Luckily, the academy had trained him in basic Zaloran tech. The pod's lights turned green. "Get in," he said. "What about you?" she asked, voice weak but steady. "I'll make sure it launches first," he replied. Liara hesitated. "You will die if you stay." Ethan gave a tired smile. "Not if I'm lucky. Besides, someone has to make sure the pod doesn't jam." She looked at him for a moment, at the soot on his face, the torn uniform, the cracked visor. Then, without another word, she climbed inside. Ethan locked the hatch and pressed the manual release. The pod hummed, lights flashing as the air around it began to heat. A moment later, a powerful blast of pressure pushed it out through a narrow launch tube, sending it toward orbit. Ethan felt relief for a second, then everything went white. The dome collapsed completely, and he was thrown backward into darkness. Hours later, rescue ships from the academy arrived. They found survivors scattered across the surface. Among them, buried under debris, was Ethan. His oxygen mask was shattered, but he had wrapped a small emergency bubble around his head just in time. He was unconscious but alive. He woke up 2 days later in the academy's medical center. His body ached all over, and bright lights hurt his eyes. When he tried to sit up, a gentle hand touched his arm. It was Princess Liara. She looked different, her royal symbols glowing again, her expression calm but filled with gratitude. "You are awake," she said softly. Ethan blinked. "What happened?" "You saved me," she said. "The rescue teams found us because the pod sent your distress signal. You used your own beacon to make sure they came back here first." He frowned slightly. "I don't remember doing that." "You did," she said. "You were brave when others could not move. I owe you my life." Ethan felt awkward. "I just did what anyone would do." Liara shook her head slowly. "No, not anyone. Many ran. You stayed." Word of the rescue spread quickly. The academy's network filled with news reports. A human student saving the Zaloran princess was something the galaxy had never seen before. Some called it the greatest act of courage since the founding of Celestera. Still, Ethan tried to avoid attention. He preferred quiet. But every time he walked through the academy halls, people turned and stared. Some bowed slightly to him. Even the instructors looked at him with new respect. Later that week, the headmaster called him to the central hall. There, a holographic message from the Zaloran Emperor appeared. The Emperor was a tall, noble figure whose eyes shimmered with golden light. "Ethan Cole of Earth," said the Emperor's voice, echoing through the room. "You have done more than save a life. You have reminded the galaxy that courage knows no race or blood. The Zaloran people are in your debt. My daughter lives because of you." Ethan bowed awkwardly. "I'm just glad she's safe, Your Majesty." The Emperor smiled faintly. "Humility as well as bravery. My daughter tells me you are honest and kind. I will not forget your name, human." After the message ended, Liara stood beside Ethan, her voice quiet but warm. "My father does not speak such words lightly. He sees you as more than a savior. He sees you as family in spirit." Ethan was surprised. "Family? That's a strong word." "In my culture," she explained, "saving a life creates a bond stronger than blood. You did not just save me. You saved part of our royal line. My father will wish to honor you in person." He smiled faintly. "Then I suppose I'll need a better uniform." Liara laughed softly, a musical sound that made others nearby smile. It was the first time anyone at the academy had heard her laugh so openly. From that moment on, they often sat together during lectures, sharing notes and quiet jokes. Other students began to whisper about their strange friendship, a human and a princess, two worlds meeting through courage. At night, Ethan sometimes stood by the academy's glass windows looking up at the stars. He wondered what it meant to be a hero in a galaxy filled with beings far stronger than humans. He didn't feel like one. He was just someone who couldn't stand to watch another person suffer. Yet somewhere far above, on the royal world of Veshral Prime, plans were already being made. The Emperor had spoken with his council. The human who had saved his daughter would not remain a mere student. He would be invited to the royal court, not as a guest, but as something greater. Back on Celestera, Ethan had no idea what awaited him. He only knew that his life had changed forever. He had rescued a princess, but perhaps in doing so, he had also rescued himself from the quiet loneliness of being far from home. As he lay in bed that night, the lights dimming around him, he heard a soft knock at his door. When he opened it, Liara stood there holding a small glowing crystal. "This is a Zaloran heartstone," she said. "It carries memory and warmth. It